Shalom. It's your brother Azrael from the Hopeful Elect. Um, with another bringing in the Sabbath again. Shalom to the brother Denal. Your mic's still muted.
Shalom.
You know what I'm saying? Bringing in the Sabbath again on another Factual Friday. This lesson's not going to be just straight facts, but it's going to be a very edifying lesson through the Spirit. Most High will, right? Abba Ratazan. But with that being said, I want to say shalom to everybody that's going to watch this, everybody that's hopping on the live stream. Um, like we always say, you could be doing anything on this Friday night, but you're getting edified. You're in the spirit, right? This video is going to be called Deceptive Fear. Deceptive fear, right? Meaning a false reality of fear. And like I said earlier, through the Spirit, hopefully it's edifying. So we're going to give all glory and honor and praise to the Most High God by the way of His Son, who's an instrument of salvation for the nation of Israel. Um, you know, I kind of wanted to do like a prophetic video. I'll have to pray on it, and hopefully we can bring out a prophetic video during the week. But there's so much going on in the world today to where you cannot be on the edge of your seat, right? Because there's so much going on. It's just so much going on, man. With China and Taiwan, with Serbia and Russia, the United Nations, with America. There's so much going on, man. And war is at our doorstep. War is at everybody's doorstep. And it's only a matter of time. So even though we are trying to do as the word says, and build ye houses and gardens and eat the fruit thereof and be fruitful and multiply, we also have to understand that we are living in those days, right, where our forefathers and prophets and priests talked about, right? And so we're living in exciting times nonetheless. But sad to say, this video is not going to be on prophecy per se. It's gonna be on deceptive fear, right? And pretty much deceptive fear is a false reality of fear that's instilled into us, right? By the precept of men. But Khan, brother,
Hey, no, what was you about to say? I'm sorry.
I was just about to give it to you.
Con, brother Don, no, man. Back again with another lesson, man. We try to stay consistent with these things, man, to make our calling and election sure. I want to say shalom to everybody that might be listening, everybody that might not be listening, but might tune in later on. Shalom to all those that are pushing this truth, right? Men, women, and child. I also wanted to talk because we're talking about deceptive fear, man. I don't know if he was gonna bring this up today or not, but were you gonna bring up monkeypox at all?
Nah, but I was just watching a video on it, and the brothers was on there, and they was pretty much saying, "Hey, watch what you say on the YouTube." And how you label stuff, because we don't want to get flagged. But Khan, you can go ahead and bring it out. I wasn't gonna bring it out.
Right, man. If you know anything about firearms, man, you know that Smith and Wesson has a gun, right? And it's called the M&P, right? That's their staple, the M&P, right? So if I ever say Smith and Wesson, you know what I'm talking about. You know what I'm saying? But that Smith and Wesson, that they're saying that we're on a national, nationwide state of emergency, right? I was just gonna harp on deceptive fear in this situation because the last time we declared for a nationwide state of emergency was when?
It was for the snake bite.
It was for the snake bite, right? You know what I'm saying? Whatever they call it, the jab, right? And back then, man, they did it, when it first came on the scene and whatnot, just get everybody scared. And then after that, the cases, skyrocketed. And then so I'm just bringing this out that, hey, look, if they were to be consistent, it's time to kind of get serious and switch gears, right? Because we saw the cases go up, and everybody says that was the rough draft, right? What if this Smith and Wesson M&P, right? What if this is the real thing? Now, the only thing is you might have faked some cases with COVID, but you can't fake this, right? Because we see it physically, right? So if it does take off to where this thing is an actual thing and the case is skyrocketing, everybody walking around bumped up, right? Just imagine how much they're going to be pushing this next jab.
Right, because you got to understand these are like pestilence. You know what I'm saying? We're living in the days of the times of Egypt when the children of Israel were freed once before time. You know what I'm saying? And you read stuff about Job being covered head to toe in boils, and you don't know what that looks like. But now on the earth today, we're seeing it firsthand with our own eyes what that looked like. You know what I'm saying? Um, if you we can get into that real quick because I wanted to. Can you pull up Galatians 4:16, or I might read it myself. I know you got the
Hey,
other
man,
one.
you moving away from the script, man. I thought I was gonna properly prepare and everything.
Hey, no, I'm just gonna read it out the Bible. But you know what I'm saying? Just moving through the spirit, because the spirit led you to start talking about this, not me. You know what I'm saying? But we don't have to stick to no script because the spirit is our script. All praises to the most high God. But we're gonna go to Galatians 4:16. You've been in the truth. You already know this is a staple precept for when you know what I'm saying, are uh, trying to get the truth out, right? This is Galatians chapter 4 and verse 16. Am I therefore become your enemy because I tell you the truth, right? Because the truth is scary sometimes. The truth can hurt sometimes. A lot of times we don't want to hear the truth. And like the brother said, with deceptive fear, I believe it was 2020. The first time the other time we were in a national emergency, right? And you know, a lot of people got scared. It was a lot of deceptive fear going on, and even today, it's a lot of deceptive fear going on. You can just go on Twitter and see all the Twitter tweets, as my brother Levi used to say. You know what I'm saying? Go on Instagram, Facebook, on the news. Everybody's freaking out. Everybody's like, man, I don't want to get it. Oh yeah, as soon as they come up with something, I'm taking it. Hey man, I'm going to the hospital right now, and they don't even got nothing. You know what I'm saying? Everybody is panicking, freaking out, and the children of Israel are just treating it like, you know what I'm saying? It's not even in my mind. Um, you know, because we walk by faith and not by sight. Even though what we're seeing it looks ugly and terrible and nasty, we don't trust in that. You know what I'm saying? We know that's not coming to us because we keep the law, statutes, and commandments. But like the brother said, deceptive fear. And because the truth is out there, people literally are scared and pretend like it's not happening, right? Can you go to Google real quick and type in cognitive dissonance? We get the definition of cognitive dissonance. All right, it says the state of having inconsistent thoughts, beliefs, or attitudes, especially as relating to behavioral distractions and attitude change, right? Inconsistent thoughts. So if we're gonna harp on the fact that it says inconsistent thoughts, right? What does that mean? It means your thoughts aren't. It's not adding up. The way that the way that you're thinking and the way that you're reacting doesn't line up with what's actually happening in reality, right? And that's deceptive fear. Like the brother said, we are in a. Are we in? We're in a national state of emergency. Um, I know. I know New York. You know, New York is always one of the first states to, you know, what I'm saying, go above and beyond uh, for precaution and taking precaution and stuff like that. And I know they're doing mock this, mock that, and if this happens in this, they even did it for nuclear bombs. You know what I'm saying? They're getting prepared for nuclear bombs because you know these major cities like New York and uh, New York, and like Washington D.C. These major cities are when we start getting in conflicts with people. Those are the cities that they're aiming for. I wouldn't be surprised if you know Atlanta, Georgia was one. You know, one of the cities people aim for. But getting into this video, man, don't want to be before you guys too long. Cognitive dissonance, right? And the precepts that we have laid out is kind of it's gonna walk us through it, right? This is Romans chapter 10 and 3.
Romans chapter 10 and verse number 3. For they, being ignorant of God's righteousness and going about to establish their own righteousness, have not submitted themselves unto the righteousness of God.
Right. So the scripture says it plain. It says, for they being ignorant of God's righteousness. What does that mean? You call somebody ignorant today, they might get offended. You call somebody ignorant today, they might gainsay. What is gainsaying? That means when you talk back just to talk back because you're playing the defense, right? And you feel like somebody is criticizing you. All right. But literally, there's people today that think that they are smart and wise, and they are ignorant. Ignorant of what? God's righteousness. Meaning they don't know what's right and what's wrong according to God, according to the Bible. All the time we talk to people and we say, do you think God would allow this? And they'd be like, no, that's not God. That's so and so and blah blah blah. And God wouldn't say that and God wouldn't do that. And then we read the scripture for them, and they still cognitive dissonance, right? They still because of deceptive fear that's been put into their mind, right? The next part of that verse says, and going about to establish their own righteousness, meaning they make up what's right and wrong in their mind. Because they have done so, when they actually see the righteousness of God, they can't accept it. It becomes foolishness to them. Shalom to the brother Yeshaya. Did you want to salute in?
Nah, I want to say, man, Shabbat Shalom to the Friday to Saturday, sundown Sabbath keepers, man. Lord willing, you edified through in spirit and in truth with the lesson that the brother's bringing out. Want to start off by giving all praise, glory, and honor to the Most High God through the name of His only begotten Son. But with that, I yield.
Hey man, I want to point out why you got these one prescription fit all glasses on, man.
Hey, man, like like Deion Sanders say, man, you look good, you feel good. You feel good, you play good. You play good, they pay good. So,
Hey man, join the team, man. Hey, we don't need prescriptions out here, bro.
hey, look, all this vanity either way.
Hey, we don't need...
Hey, I just want to go on record to say when I wear my glasses, they are real. Right? They're not fake.
Says the brother who drinks 40s and canisters on live. You know what I'm saying?
That was a coffee mug. But yeah, man. So cognitive dissonance, you know what I'm saying? And we can see this as multifold too, because part of the righteousness of God is judgment, right? The whole law of America is based on the judgments of the Bible, right? They swear in on the Bible. Presidents swear in on the Bible. Judges, people that are guilty of crimes, defendants, lawyers, everybody swears in on the Bible. You know why? Because they model our judicial system from the laws of God, right? A shadow of it, as far as when they're giving punishments or judgments to somebody. Um, you know, a lot of it is just, even the way a courtroom is set up, right? When we go and we read Zechariah, and Zechariah tells us he had a vision of Joshua standing before the angel of the Lord in the judgment seat, and he had an accuser, right? And he was a defendant, right? America sees that and they modeled their whole court system after that, right? But the righteousness of God, part of the righteousness of God is judgment. And a lot of our people aren't being taught what God's judgment is, right? The brothers last night went on live and they think about it Thursday. They were watching that video about some of the foolishness and madness that people get taught, right? Going about to establish their own righteousness, what's right in their eyes, not God's righteousness, what's right in God's eyes, right? And so that's deceptive fear. How is that deceptive fear, you might say? Can we get the next precept?
You on mute, Op.
Trying to pull back the screen, man. So, like it. I'm tripping.
You over here talking about some. I'm trying to be all organized, man. If you was organized, you had them tabs pulled up, man. That's what they for.
Yeah, but you know, it adds to the experience, man. Being able to go to the scripture with the people, you know.
Con.
Ecclesiastes 7 and verse 16. Be not righteous over much, neither make thyself over wise. Why shouldst thou destroy thyself?
Right. So a lot of people will say being righteous over much is taking the law too serious. Right. I'm going on a stance to say that being righteous over much is the second part. It says neither make thyself over wise. Right. Why shouldest thou destroy thyself? So this would be like brothers and sisters that make up laws that are not in the Bible and want to live them out as if they are in the Bible. For example, like brothers was talking about it earlier today. Oh, you can't call on this name. If you call on this name, you're not gonna make it into the kingdom. Okay, that's something that you're believing in. Or you can't eat this meat because of this. Or you can't do X, Y, and Z. Right? A lot of this stuff, in the truth and outside of this truth, is all deceptive fear to get us to believe a certain way, and that's the only way. It's this way or the highway, right? And a lot of times, that's the stuff that is being taught to us, right? Is not in the Bible, right? So that's being over righteous, meaning you're doing the most, you're doing too much, you're doing what's not asked of you, right? Ecclesiastes 12 and 13. You know what I'm saying? The whole duty of man is to fear God and keep his commandments, not the commandments of man, right? Can we get the next verse? If you got something, you go ahead.
Khan, just to expound on that, like what the brother's trying to say is, you know what I'm saying? You got some brothers and sisters that will take the dietary law and they'll take it to the full length, and they'll start to add and subtract things as they please, right? Because they think they got the wisdom, right? Being over righteous much looks like, you know, somebody saying, "Hey, look, we shouldn't be eating meat at all." You know what I'm saying? When the Bible goes ahead and tells us, if somebody tells you, "Hey, you're not to be partaking in meat in the last days," and that's a red flag, right? Right? That's false prophecy right there, right? Because he already ordained meats that were clean. So you're going against the word of God, right? That's being over righteous, bro. And you best believe if you ask them why, you know they got tens of thousand excuses on why we shouldn't eat meat, right? You know what I'm saying? But at the end of the day, right? We can't add or subtract to this word, right? And a lot of times when we're over righteous or over righteous much, that's what we're doing. We're adding and subtracting from the word, and we don't even realize it.
Con.
But the next verse we're gonna be going to Deuteronomy. No, yeah, Deuteronomy 6 and 25. Con.
Con. You know, this is deceptive fear. Stuff that is made up by men, you know what I'm saying? And people believe it because it's taught to them and they hold fast to it because they believe that somehow this ideology is going to give them salvation, right? For example, when you're in Sunday church and you give tithes, right? They scare you to give. I've had plenty of conversations with people at work, and they're, I would say so-called genuine people, and they say, "Man, I don't know why this is going on in my life. I mean, I go to church, I pay my tithes every Sunday, but they don't read the Bible. They don't know the righteousness of God. So they establish their own righteousness and think that's going to make them into the into the kingdom of heaven. And that's why he says, "Hey, look, many will say, Lord, Lord, I did this in your name." No, you did it in vain, right? You did it for yourself because I never said do this. I never said fear me in this way, right? I said fear me by keeping my commandments, right? So let's read this real quick.
The book of Deuteronomy, chapter 6 and verse 25. And it shall be our righteousness if we observe to do all the commandments before the Lord our God as he has commanded us.
Right. So it would be our right. This is righteousness, right? If we do the Lord's commandments as he commanded us, not our own commandments, right? So you might have, even in the truth, you might have um elder or bishop or somebody over your congregation and say, guess what? Our women aren't marrying nobody if they're not courting them for 4 years. They're not courting them for 3 years, right? That's not according to the righteousness of God, right? That's establishing your own righteousness, right? And even in the world, we hear um we hear just sayings in the world that make you righteous according to a certain sect of people. You know what I'm saying? Oh, you can't judge. Oh, he's so righteous because he doesn't judge. He just accepts everybody. If you judge, you know what I'm saying? You're not gonna make it into the kingdom. That's not recorded in the Bible. That's not asked of God. Right? Go ahead.
I was gonna harp on the situation you just highlighted, where you join certain congregations and they set rules in place for their congregations, right? Um, pretty much doing what you said, establishing, some type of righteousness, right? Whether that be, okay, now you want to get married, well, you got to take X, Y, and Z classes, and then you got to be courting for 4 to 6 months, and then you got to come back to me, and I got to approve it, right? And we don't find none of this in the Bible, right? Now, looking at this situation, we understand why certain rules like that might be put in place, right? It might be expedient in nowadays because our people are lost. Our people don't know how things are supposed to go in the right way, and it might come from a place of sincerity and care for brothers and sisters, right? But if you like pressing that on certain people, especially babies in the truth, right? They're gonna take that, and you might have set those rules up, and you might not want it to be over righteous, but you were just trying to counsel, right? But the people that you're giving it these rules to, right? They don't see it as that. They see it as law. So when they go out into the world, now you're creating over righteous people. Why am I saying this? Is because now when they start to converse and associate with other people in the truth, that now it's a conversation like, what? You didn't court for 4 to 6 months? Well, your marriage might be illegitimate. You know what I'm saying? And so now the
Right.
people,
Or what? What? You didn't have a Sabbath service? Oh, y'all don't know about that? And you got to ask people like, what you learning? Go ahead.
you know what I'm saying? And so it's like the brother was saying, like certain things are kind of like man-made traditions. Not, and the thing about man-made traditions is this, right? Man-made traditions aren't necessarily bad, but you got to understand you can't condemn somebody for not doing them, right?
Right.
It might be expedient, but you cannot condemn somebody. You cannot rebuke somebody for not doing them or make them feel bad for not doing them.
Right.
Instill what deceptive fear in them, saying, "Oh, you're not going to get the kingdom.
Right.
You're not going to get eternal life because if you don't do this." That's why Christ came back to set the difference between what was law and what was man-made tradition. Because
And he said what?
the man-made tradition, what did it do? It laid the burdens on the people. That's really what put the burdens on the people was the man-made traditions.
Right. And he said, my commandments are not grievous.
Exactly.
So a lot of us, we've been tasked with a lot of grievous work. For example, women got to always wear a head wrap, right? They always got to have a dress or a skirt on. Can't ever wear pants, right? So we don't see that in the Bible. So whose righteousness is that? Is that your righteousness or is that the Most High God's righteousness? Because one thing about it, if we were to go back in time, the modesty back then might be deemed different from the modesty now. You know what I'm saying? Who's to say what it looks like? A lot of us might say the women were in error back in the day if we saw them, right? Or they might say we're in error. So the thing about it is we got to keep subjectivity out of it, right? Everything has to be objective. And right before you go, I know we was talking to that brother that came up to us last weekend, and he said, well, a couple of brothers actually. One brother used to date a girl in the truth, and her whole family's in the truth, and he was like, "Yeah, man, I'm not really with it, man. It was kind of cultish because they believed in this," and we was like, "Hold up, that's not even in the Bible, though." You know what I'm saying? So, and then another brother was like, I know in First Corinthians 10 or 11, I know it says, you know what I'm saying, about the hair thing, and I like my hair and blah blah blah. And we tell them, hey, look, man, there's some people that's going to preach a righteousness that's benefiting their conduct, right? But that righteousness is not necessarily the Most High God's righteousness, right? Go ahead.
Come on, man. That's why you have to rightfully divide the word for yourself, right? You gotta know how to eat the meat and spit out the bones, right? And even with the situations that the brother is highlighting, right? Like wearing pants and stuff like that, right? Of course, we don't see these things in the law, right? Uh, and we're not saying that, brothers, it's that where that came from, you know what I'm saying? I believe it came from a good place, right? But it's turned into something that can get a lot of brothers and sisters in trouble, right? Because when you start to bear false witness on folks saying that they're breaking the law and they're not, right? That's where the problem sets in. You know what I'm saying? And so again, man, with these things, man, it's not necessarily saying that they're wicked things, but you got to know how to rightfully divide this truth, right? Because that's what it all is, right? Some people might not. Oh, I ain't gonna hang out with that sister because she believes that she can wear pants. I ain't gonna hang out with that brother because he got long hair, right? You know what I'm saying? And that's what we got to get away from because the stuff that the man-made traditions are getting away from. The law is enough, right? The law is enough to make that separation. The law is enough to make you, you know what I'm saying, separate yourself. But when you put in man-made traditions, now we see Christ, right? Oh, I can't be with that brother. He don't wash his hands every time he eat. You know what I'm saying? That's nowhere in the law.
Or I can't eat with those brothers because they pray before they eat and not afterwards, right?
Right.
Or I can't be with those brothers because they wear mitris and head wraps on their head, right?
Right.
A lot of that is righteousness that you created that helps you be at ease with yourself. You know what I'm saying? And you deem that to be righteous. It would be one thing if you was a ruler or a king over thousands and captains of hundreds and stuff like that. And you had, you know what I'm saying, money to rule the people and authority from God. But a lot of us are just coming into the truth. And a lot of us, and pretty much all of us are still babes, right? We don't have 100% nothing, right? If somebody says they have 100%, that might be because they own a Bible, but trust me, there's always more to learn. All right. But Khan, we can move on to the next one.
Matthew 15:9.
And even just like in the world, right? They'll say that we're religious, but they religiously, spark up the grill every 4th of July. Or they religiously, if you ask a random American today, what's a good Christian person? They'll say a good Christian person is somebody that loves and doesn't judge, and they're just a good American citizen, man, and they have pride for their country. What does pride for your country got to do with anything? But that's righteousness according to people, right? Celebrating Christmas, having the Christmas spirit, right? Now, if you don't have the Christmas spirit, you're not a righteous person, right? A lot of this stuff is deceptive fear, meaning it's not fear from the Most High God. It's fear that we put on people, that we receive from man.
That's funny that you say that, man, because people literally say that. Oh, you don't celebrate Christmas? You don't love Jesus? It's like, what? Where do you make the correlation? Right? They'll be like, oh, you say Xmas? That means you hate Christ.
Right. And so even like last weekend, the older elder came up and said, I celebrate Christmas because I was told that's Jesus' birthday. You don't have to celebrate it if you don't want to, but I celebrate because I was told that's Jesus' birthday. But my thing is this, and the word says this: you're establishing your own righteousness because the Bible never says Christmas was Jesus' birthday, right? But this is Matthew 15:9. If you had something, go ahead.
Matthew 15:9, it says, "But in vain do they worship me, teaching for doctrines the commandments of men."
Right. So in vain, meaning for themselves. They worship God for themselves. How do you worship God for yourselves? Just like that wicked bishop in his Rolls Royce with stars on the ceiling, chains, Dior glasses, a Gucci sweater in the summertime, right? That's how you worship the Lord in vain, right? I don't even know what he has to say about the Most High God because he's just so flashy, right? I can't even pay attention to a message because he's so flashy, right? So in vain they do worship me, right? He worships the Most High God only to get a check, right? Only to proclaim himself to be a bishop. That's for vanity, all right? Teaching for doctrines the commandments of who? Of men, right?
and this is
Yeshaya
all.
had something.
Oh,
Yeshaya
my
had
bad, my
something.
bad. Go
Brother,
ahead.
good. You can go ahead. You can go ahead, brother.
I was just saying concerning that pastor man. Some people said that they were led to believe that was a whole thing that was a hoax made by him so he can get around some tax issues that he had. You know what I'm saying?
Because I think he was accused of stealing like $90K from his church or something like that.
Con.
You have something, Yeshaya?
Con, I was going to say, piggybacking off of what you said, I was talking to one of my friends today, and I was just telling her, like, you know, she was saying that, yeah, we got your children gifts, this, and the third. We bought them last Christmas, and I was telling her, like, nah, take them out the Christmas bags, you know what I'm saying, and you know, put them in different type of bags. I'll come get them one of these days. But fast forwarding, um, the conversation ended up saying I was telling her how I didn't celebrate holidays with this, that, and the third, and I was telling her I don't celebrate no holidays, and I gave her a list of holidays that we do celebrate according to the law, right? And then I said you should keep those too, because hey, that's our heritage. And she says, why am I keeping something that I don't even know about? And I said, likewise with the holidays you celebrate in today's time, like, do you know truly about, you know, Valentine's Day, Christmas? Do you know about New Year's? Do you know about Thanksgiving? Do you know about any of these things? And she responded with the same thing you said. She said, I don't know about everything else, but what I do know is that Christmas is God's birthday, and that Thanksgiving, I don't know too much about that either. So I was just like, you know, hey, that just goes to show people will definitely make it seem as
Right.
if
And
they know.
right. That's a slave mentality because literally you would ask a slave something back in the day, they're just regurgitating whatever the master said to them so that they don't get in trouble. And so now today, we don't do no research. We just regurgitate whatever was told to us. She probably learned that when she was a toddler, that that's Jesus' birthday, and it just came with her all the way to adulthood.
Right. She said that she learned that in school.
Right. Commandments of who? Of
Man,
men. Go
con.
ahead, Jamal.
Come man. Just like the video we were watching yesterday, right? If you kept watching it, they get into holidays and all of that, right? And this man had the nerve to say, right? The pastor Des, the young one, right? He said, you know, because somebody asked a question concerning holidays. He said, you know, whenever the Hebrew Israelites bring up we can't celebrate Christmas and Thanksgiving, right? I want you to tell them and ask them why do they celebrate the Feast of Dedication and the Feast of Lights. He said, because technically, if they're subscribing to the law, statutes, and commandments, that the Feast of Dedication and the Feast of Lights is not in Leviticus, so they shouldn't be keeping that either. That would fall under paganism too, right? And I was like, man, Christians really don't know what they're talking about. And he goes on to say this. He says, so if they can celebrate something that's not in the law, we can celebrate something in the law that's not in the law. So if you celebrating Feast of Dedication, if you celebrating Hanukkah, don't come at me when I'm eating my Thanksgiving turkey. And my thing is this, right? Just like you said, it's that slave mentality, because you know what I'm saying, you don't even know that you're disrespecting your forefathers, right? What your forefathers set up for you to celebrate, and not even understanding the Bible enough to know that Jeremiah 10 says, don't learn the way of the heathen, which is everybody else that's not you. That's what you're partaking in, right? Feast of Dedication. Also, we saw them ask the questions about how can we correlate? How can we correspond this to the doctrine of Christ, right? Same thing with the holidays, right? He's going on this spiel talking about, you know, he's throwing shade about the Feast of Dedication, right? Not even considering the fact that the guy that he says the doctrine of Christ, they're always hopping on the doctrine of Christ, not even considering that Christ kept the Feast of Dedications.
Right.
Where did Christ keep Thanksgiving at?
Right. And that's the thing. You know what I'm saying? Going about this to establish their own righteousness. They're ignorant of the righteousness of God. They call it paganism because they don't know it's the righteousness of God. You tell them, you know, this is actually right in God's eyes. It's foreign to them. They don't comprehend. But Thanksgiving, that's not right in God's eyes. Oh, that's righteous to them, right? And for the brother Hassan to ask the question, you can put it back up here. Can you
Brother, my bad. We was cooking at the same time.
Can you pull up Job chapter 4?
And I got a precept too.
I mean Job chapter 1 and verse 4. You got a precept too?
Yeah.
Oh, come. Because the brother says, what y'all think about the birthday? And a lot of this is a big question in the truth, right? What y'all think about the birthday? I personally don't celebrate them because I've seen in a wicked book, a Satanist book,
It's the
that
satanic book, the
right,
satanic ritual book.
right. Why would you want to do anything in the Satanic Bible? If I'm reading that and I see that they you know what I'm saying? Okay, the thing about it is this: they're gonna do everything on the right hand side. They're gonna do it on the left hand side, but you have to be able to discern what is not you know what I'm saying? I don't even know the word. What you have to be able to discern what is not um like a reciprocation of what is made up. You know what I'm saying? So if they say, for example, they say, okay, I see that there is fasting on the right hand side, and you might see that on the left hand side there's fasting too. Okay, you take that with a grain of salt because they fast for this reason, we fast for this reason. But something like a birthday, that's not even on the right hand side. So why do our people fight so much to say, hey, just because it's in the satanic book doesn't mean we have to. Why would you want to do anything that our Satanists are doing, right?
Check and check this out, right? Not only is it in the satanic book, right? It's listed as their number one holy day,
Right.
right?
It's not
Their
just a
number
bullet
one,
point.
their number one holy day in the satanic Bible is birthdays, right?
Right.
And just like the brother was saying, because it's literally practicing idolatry. They want you to practice idolatry, which is what? Breaking what? The first commandment that God ever gave to us.
Right. Shalom to the brother Zion. And you know,
Shalom, brother Zion.
thinking about the word idolatry, the first letter in idolatry is I. So the biggest idol in your life is what? All is vanity, like the brother
Hey,
said.
and check this out, right? Of course, when you look at the Satanic Bible, there's things in there that we just automatically assume that's in there, like Halloween. They have birthdays listed up higher than Halloween.
Right. They have birthdays listed before tarot cards. Birthdays is listed before going to satanic church.
Hey man,
Birthdays
check
is
this out.
listed before praying to the moon.
Check this out, right? You're literally doing a whole ritual to yourself. You got a cake with the candles. Sometimes people dim the lights, right? Then you got to make a wish. You're not praying, you're making a wish.
Hey, and also before you even make that wish or get to the birthday candles with those shrine candles and the lights, a lot of times you're wearing witches and warlock hats, those little pointy hats from a little childhood. You know what I'm saying? It's all set up like witchcraft.
Hey, not only that, everybody's holding hands and chanting you a song, right? And
Hey,
then you blowing out the candle, and you got all that smoke, which references incense,
right,
going up to who?
right.
Hey, the satanic world, right?
Hey, and then years later, now you're in a Greek fraternity and you're at a reading, right? And you don't see nothing wrong with it because you've had birthdays all your life. This is familiar to you, right? But the brother's question says, what y'all think about the birthday? I personally don't celebrate them because I've seen it in a wicked book that it said one of the most blaspheming thing you can do with worshiping yourself. Right?
The brother said he didn't want to mention it, but hey, look, man, we're gonna call a spade a spade. You know what I'm saying?
We're not gonna
add more fuel to our fire.
Right. We're not gonna be deceptive in our fear, right? This is righteous fear. This is do we have Salakia? Does righteousness have Salakia? What fellowship does righteousness have? You know what I'm saying?
With unrighteousness.
No, what fellowship does light have with darkness?
Yes. I know what you was referring to, but since you use righteousness.
Before Yeshaya gets his precept, I'm gonna read this as an example, brother. We can see this as birthdays in the Bible, because you know a lot of people be like, Christmas it's not in the Bible. Christmas is in the Bible. It says not to do it. Birthdays are in the Bible. It say not to do it. Right. So let's read this in Job chapter 1 and verse 4.
And his sons went and feasted in their houses, every one his day, and sent and called for their 3 sisters to eat and to drink with them.
Right. So everybody wants to make a big gathering, wants to have a big feast on their day. Right. It says everyone his day. Right. What else could his day mean? Right. The day you came into the world. Right. And even if it wasn't the day you came into the world, just a day that you claim is yours, because we see that in the book of Sirach, he's the one that deems what's an ordinary day And he's the one that deems what's a high holy day, not us, not man, right? It says, and they even called for their sister. They invited family and friends, you know what I'm saying, to drink and be merry with them. Go ahead.
I was gonna say this too, right? When you really examine in the Bible, right, and you want to examine birthdays, right? Just seeing it in the Satanic Bible should be enough, right? One, but two, you're gonna find birthdays in the Bible, right? Not just this verse, you know. There's several other verses where we see actual birthdays, and every time you read about somebody's actual birthday, right, what's happening? Somebody of the children of Israel is being killed, right? Every time a birthday is in the scriptures is associated with something negative. You can't find that one time where, you know, a birthday happened and something positive was taking place. You're just not going to find it. You're not going to find any Israelites' birthdays listed in the scriptures, especially not Christ. You're not going to find that in there.
What
right?
they'll say is, well, Christ had a birthday. The three wise men, which it doesn't say it was three wise men, it just says wise men. The three wise men, they came and gave him gifts. But one, they gave him gifts not because it was his birthday, but because he was a king. It wasn't because it was his birthday, and it was already after the fact. He was already born, right? And it wasn't a reoccurring thing because we see they killed him, right? It wasn't a reoccurring. It's not like they kept treating him this way, right? It was just prophetic. But like we were saying before, you know, this is deceptive fear of the world, right? Oh, you don't celebrate holiday. You don't celebrate your birthday. You're not going to celebrate your newborn's birthday. You're not going to celebrate. You're not going to tell me happy birthday, right? And that's going about to establish our own righteousness, and that is what the Bible's calling over righteousness, right? Putting burdens on people. Because one thing about it, coming into the truth, you will see what's wicked and what's not because of how it pulls the spirits off of people, right? When you come into the truth and you stop telling people happy birthday, you'll see how many friends unfollow you, how many friends got a problem with you, how many friends ghosting you. You know why? Because they've been instilled a different type of fear that's not the Most High God, a deceptive fear, right? Of a false righteousness, right? Not according to the words of God, because they're ignorant of God's righteousness, right? But let's read verse 5 so brother Yeshaya can get to his precept.
Verse number 5, and it was so when the days of their feasting were gone about,
right? When their birthdays had passed,
that Job sent and sacrificed them,
sanctified them.
Salakia, I'm tripping.
Right? Why would he have to sanctify them, right? If they wasn't doing nothing wrong, why would he have to sanctify them, right? Keep reading.
And rose up early in the morning.
He didn't tarry. He rose up early in the morning right after they did it, right?
Just like Christ did.
Right. Con.
And offered burnt offerings according to the number of them all.
Right. Why would he offer burnt offerings, right? Let's see why. Keep reading.
For Job said, it may be that my sons have sinned.
That they have what?
That my sons have sinned.
So Job's sons sinned when they celebrated their days, right? When they feasted, right? Keep going.
And cursed God in their hearts.
And when you celebrate yourself, you're cursing God in your heart, right? And this is the righteousness of God, right? Righteousness of men will have you curse God in your heart and say that it's righteous, right? I just want to thank God for another year around the sun. First of all, God says the sun goes back and forth around us. First of all, God didn't even say to celebrate your birthday and have big cakes and elaborate trips and big feasts. A lot of people, hey, once you get older, birthdays start being a little one-day thing. They turn into a weekend of feasts, and you just eating good, just like Job's sons were. And you're cursing God. You think that you're being righteous. You think that you're praising God for another year. You think that you're praising God for more life, but you're cursing God. Go ahead.
Come on, man. And just when you think about birthdays in general, right? It's crazy because, like, you might say, "Oh, it's not because of me," right? B-days just weren't our culture. Most of these hallmark holidays and celebrations didn't really become common practice till the 1900s. Right? It wasn't our culture. It's not what we did. That's why it's not in this book, right? And it just follows along with all the other paganism that came, that they forced on us, right? But you know, you talk to somebody about a birthday and how it's idolatry, this and the third, and they'll fight tooth and nail with you, like, nah, it's not adultery. I'm just thanking God for this, that, and the third, right? And then subconsciously, there's no way you can have a birthday feast or acknowledge your birthday and not take it as idolatry. Because what do we do on our birthdays? We've all had birthdays in our past lives. You know what I'm saying? And what do, right? If something didn't go as we planned, right, then it was disrespectful to us on our birthday, right? It's always, where do you want to go eat, right? And a lot of girls, they take it personal. He would do that on your birthday.
He made you pay for your own dinner on your birthday.
He's choosing to read. He's choosing to read instead of take you out to go buy something.
Right. He wants to go street teach instead of go to your wedding. He wants to go
exactly
instead of go to your party.
He chose to evangelize instead of you know what I'm saying, take you to the strip club, and then they'll be like, well, girl, he always does this, right? And you might be vouching for him, and then it's the wicked friends that be like, well, he could have stopped doing it for one day.
And he's supposed to be a man of God. He's so selfish, right? But being selfish for the Most High God is different from being selfish for yourself, right? And so that's why they'll call us over righteous. But the scripture is saying that they're over righteous, right? They make themselves wise. They do it to their own destruction, because the righteousness of God was said in the Bible that you can't be over righteous if you're living that out. So because I want to do what's right according to God, I'm over righteous? No, that's just righteous. But go ahead, bring your precept out, Yeshaya.
I'm gonna read this, right? So this is the book of Ecclesiasticus, or Sirach, right? Or Sirach, Salakia, chapter 33, and we're gonna start at verse number 7. And it says, why doth one day excel another?
Hey, hold on. Ashton, Denal, you gotta pull that up, because that's a good precept for our people to understand who has the authority. Who has the authority to deem something righteous or not?
You got to scroll down to the bottom and go click on Apocrypha. KJVAAE Apocrypha. Khan. You got to probably scroll down on the page. In the center of the page. Oh, you got it.
Khan. Ecclesiasticus what?
33 and 7. We're going to go from 7 to 9.
Khan.
Right. So this is Ecclesiasticus chapter 33, verse number 7. It says, why doth one day excel another, when as all the light of every day in the year is of the sun? Right. So every day there's light from the sun in every day of the year. Right. So one day shouldn't supersede another in a sense. But let's read verse 8, because we want to see what the Most High is expounding on right here. By the knowledge of the Lord, they were distinguished, and he altered seasons and feasts. So now, by the knowledge of the Most High, hey, look, they were distinguished, and he altered seasons and feasts. Right. Let's read.
Verse I want to, before you move on too, I just want to emphasize something real quick. It says, by the knowledge of the Most High, not man.
Right. By the knowledge of the Most High, they were distinguished. Right. Verse number 9. It says, some of them had he made high days and hallowed them, and some of them had he made ordinary days. So when you read verse number 7 through 9 in Ecclesiasticus chapter 33, right, you see that the Most High made some days high and holy, and some days he just made ordinary. What are high holy days mentioned? You got Leviticus chapter 23, Exodus chapter 12. You got Genesis chapter 2. I mean, you have a list of holy days in the Bible that the Most High hallowed, right? The Day of Atonement, Passover, same thing as Feast of Unleavened Bread, Pentecost, first fruits, however you know what I'm saying, roll with that understanding. Day of Atonement, memorial blowing of the trumpets, we have those holy days that are that are hallowed by the Most High, that are holy. Those are the days that we should celebrate, that we have feast on. Days like the new moon. The Sabbath day is a holy day, right? But for some reason, when it comes to birthdays, people think that, oh, it's nothing wrong with acknowledging them, right? Because some people will say, Well, it ain't. I don't celebrate it. I think it's wrong in celebrating, but I don't think it's wrong in acknowledging it. Well, if your birthday is, let's say your birthday is April the 3rd, right? You don't wake up January the 2nd and say, all praises to the Most High for another day. No, you're gonna wake up April the 3rd and say, thankful for another year. No, the same type of thanks that you have on the day that you were born is the same type of thanks that you should have each and every day, because every day is not guaranteed unto you. People think that another trip around the sun, right? Another trip around the sun, or people think that another year on planet Earth is something that we should be grateful for. No. Why? Because what does it say in the book of James, chapter 4 and verse 18? What if it says, like, if it be the Lord's will, right? If it be the Lord's will that we do this, if it be the Lord's will that we do that, because every day is not promised, which is why you shouldn't hold birthdays in higher regard than any other ordinary day.
Right.
You know what I'm saying?
Right.
Some people don't even get on social media to say Shabbat Shalom, but on their birthday they'll post all praise to the Most High for another year.
Right.
Some people don't even get on the timeline or on the media to say happy Passover or happy feast of so and so, happy Day of Atonement. But they'll be like, yeah, I just turned 30, I just turned 40,
Right.
I just turned X amount of years. All praise to the Most High. That's
You
all.
don't gather to do any of the feast days, but somehow you having some gathering on your birthday, but you don't celebrate birthdays, but you're having a gathering on your birthday. You don't post none of the pictures. Even if you do gather on feast days, but your birthday comes, everything's got to be recorded.
And Salakia, for being long-winded. Before I pass it back to you, brother Azrael, I want to say that, like the brother Donald just said, you have some people who celebrate the feast days, the holy days. They post the pictures, they make the posts, right? But yet they still acknowledge their birthdays. Well, then that's where we go into understanding that, look, you can't serve God and mammon. You might think it's nothing wrong with making a simple remark, saying all praise to the Most High for this, right? But that's just going back to understanding that that was an unclean thing that Job's children were doing, which is why he made sacrifices on behalf of them to the Most High. So now you have to go back and say, where did the Most High establish this? Where did this custom come from? And if you can't find it in scriptures, that's one of them things that you should be like, well, I'm not going to do it. But Khan, I yield.
Can I get a precept real quick?
Yeah, I'm gonna talk while you get it. But yeah, deceptive fear, man. Like the brother said, you can only serve one master. You can't serve two masters, right? Meaning, if you serve one master by default, you're gonna already hate the other. Meaning, you're not gonna follow what the other one says. So even if you're claiming to be in the truth and you say, you know what I'm saying, I believe this X, Y, and Z. But guess what? Once you let the other master creep in, hey, look, that frees you from that other master, right? For example, you can say, like the brother said, you can say that you're in the truth, but say, example, we see that you celebrate your birthday, right? Now that frees you. How does that free you? You might ask. That frees you because now you've established your own righteousness to get into heaven, and it frees you from all the other stuff, right? I don't have to do this. I don't have to do that. I don't have to do this, but I'm gonna do this because I want to, right? And that's the whole thing. That's the whole thing about deceptive fear is, you know what I'm saying? You can't have both fear. You can't fear God and fear the political correctness of the world. You know what I'm saying? You can only fear one. And like the brother said, you know, we'll go out of our way to do something that's not recorded in the Bible, but a birthday that comes about every week, the Sabbath, right? The Most High God's day. It says it's the Lord's day. We don't want to celebrate that. So on Judgment Day, guess what happens? He's gonna say, "Hey, look, you never celebrated my Sabbath not one time, but you celebrate your birthday every year, right? So you establish your own righteousness. You're not obeying the king, all right? You're obeying yourself. What do you think a king's gonna do to somebody that's disobedient and wants to do what they want to do, right? Go ahead.
Con man. And we got to rely back on the classics, right? What does the scripture say? It says, abstain from all appearances of evil, right? We already established that this is something evil because we see it in the Satanic Bible, right? You know what I'm saying? We see it in the Satanic Bible. So we got to abstain from all appearances of evil. Another thing I want to harp on was when Brother Yeshaya, he was going over, you know, what makes a day excel another, right? And you gotta think, why did they chose? It's kind of fishy. It's like the brother was going into. You don't go up every day saying all praise the Most High, or every month, right? Why did they specifically chose a year to celebrate, right? You know what I'm saying? Why are they honing in on a year? Because you got so many different elements of life and time, right? You got a day, right? You got a week, you got a month, right? You got a year. Then from a year, you got what? Decades, you got centuries, all of this, right? But we harping on a year. Why just a year? And where did this come from? We gotta dive deep into these things, right? Because we don't see it in our culture, but we do see it in other people's cultures, right? When we read the Bible, it's in other people's cultures, right?
And
This is the book of.
before you read that, I wanted to also say, like the brother Yeshaya said, hey, look, we understand right from wrong. We understand don't worship something if you don't know what you're worshiping. But at the same time, we don't. Because like he said with the person he was having the conversation with, she said, I'm not gonna celebrate something I don't know about, but you're already doing it. And that's, the righteousness of the world, which the Most High God said is foolishness with him.
Come on, man. So
the sister did say that she wouldn't mind attending the feast days though.
All praise it.
This is Matthew chapter 14 and verse number 6, right? If you don't know anything about King Herod, he was an Edomite, right? And he was of another nation, right? And this is where we see other people's cultures coming into ours, right? At one time he had rule over us, right? And so we can see that we might have picked up this little tidbit from him, right? But what does it say? Verse number 4 or 6, Slakia. But when Herod's birthday was kept, right? This is where we see birthdays being kept, right? But what's associated with Herod's birthday? Let's keep reading. The daughter of Herodias danced before them and pleased Herod, right? And if you know anything about birthdays, right, especially so-called blacks and Hispanics, you know what they like to do. They like to go to the strip club, man. Right? Where do we get this from? We get these from these heathen nations, bro. Right? Like King Herod. What did he had? He had somebody dancing in front of him. You know what I'm saying? Kind of, making him feel good. That's literally what it says. And please Herod. Verse number 7. Whereupon he promised with an oath to give her whatsoever she would ask for. Right? Nowadays we give him that money. Right? You giving that money in the strip club. But verse number 8. Right? And she being before instructed of her mother said, give me here John Baptist's head in a charger, right? So she wanted the head of John the Baptist. Now, why is this so important, right? Because we see every time we see birthdays in the scripture, we see it correlating to something negative, right? This is John the Baptist we're speaking of. Christ out of his own mouth said there was none greater on the earth than John the Baptist, right? Christ was, kind of giving this man his due diligence. And so when we see this, John the Baptist was an important figure in our culture. And what did they do on a birthday that was being kept, right? They beheaded him, right? Verse number 9, and the king was sorry. Nevertheless, for the oath's sake, because they honor the oath, whether it be wicked or not. That's one thing about us, right? You might, what I'm saying? We can chop that in the bud, right? And them which sat with him at meat, he commanded it be given her, right? Commanded his head to be given her. And he sent and beheaded John the Baptist in prison, right? This is what we see associated with birthdays, right? We see our head, the head of our nations, right? The figureheads of our nation, right? Getting slaughtered on birthdays. So why in the world would you want to celebrate birthdays? Even if you don't think you're an Israelite, if you're not even woke yet, right? And let's say you're in Christianity. Christians supposed to, reverence John the Baptist some type of way. You know what I'm saying? Because he was still an important figure in the Bible. Why? If you see this, why would you want to celebrate birthdays even from that viewpoint? You know what I'm saying? These are things that we fight against. Why do we fight against them? Because it pleases us, right? We don't understand that we're making ourselves idols.
Khan, and I would just want to address the brother Hassan question real quick.
Hassan,
Salakia. So he said, sorry to take over the chat, y'all, but speaking of the new moon, would y'all say, he said, would y'all say that the new that the day of the new moon is the first day of the month. Con, right? And this is I'm gonna read something. This is the book of Sirach or Ecclesiasticus or Sirach, Salakia, chapter 43, and we're gonna start at verse number 6, right? So it says, he made the moon also to serve in her season for a declaration of times and a sign of the world, right? It says, from the moon is the sign of feast, a light that decreaseth in her perfection. The month, this is verse number 8. It says, the month is called after her name, increasing wonderfully in her changing, being an instrument of the armies above, shining in the firmament of heaven. So the month is called after her name. Even if you go to the blue letter, when you go
Con,
look up new moon, a lot of times it'll literally say new month, you know?
con.
So the day of the new moon is the first day of the month biblically, right?
Con. And when you go to First Samuel, I think it's First Samuel, is it Second Samuel?
Well, you
Uh,
talking about with David and Jonathan and
yeah,
Saul when he's fleeing from Saul? I think that's First Samuel. I want to say First Samuel 20 or Second Samuel 20.
yeah.
Hold on, I think that's First Samuel 20. I know it's one of them. First or Second Samuel, one of them. Let me see.
The covenant of David and Jonathan is First Samuel 20. But yeah, it's
It's First Samuel 19.
19.
Yeah, right. Because David fled from Saul, and it was at the time of the new moon, right?
Con.
Yeah, so that's First Samuel 19.
Right, so David fled and escaped.
Also, man, I want to give a mighty shalom to the brother, Be More, right? He had a mighty lesson today as well. Another brother out here doing that work, man, spreading this truth. The work is plenteous, but the laborers are few, and he's one of them, man. So shalom, shalom.
Trying to get to the point. Right, I think it's First Samuel 20 and 5.
The point of the new moon.
Yeah, con. Well, that's saying it. I'm trying to get where it says how many days it was. Like the third day of the month, I believe it said. The third day of the month, seeing as it was 3 days past the new moon. Paraphrasing. I know it says something like that. But Khan, you know what I'm saying? Don't want it to hinder us that much. But yeah, if you go and read First Samuel chapter 19, 20, it'll make it clear that the new moon is the first day of the month. It's counted as the first day of the month. But Khan, you know what I'm saying? That's a righteous question because this is righteousness of the Most High God. It's not righteousness of man, but it's righteousness of the Most High God, right? So this is not being over righteous when you're doing stuff that's out of the Bible. For example, brothers and sisters will say, "Oh, they're being over righteous. They don't eat pork. I'm gonna eat my pepperoni." Right? They're establishing their own righteousness, right? And they're also establishing their own deceptive fear because their fear forces them to do abominations to prove a point. You know what I'm saying? Their fear forces them to rebel against the laws of the Most High God. All right, so that's deceptive fear. Or even when it comes to wearing fringes, man, you know what I'm saying? Your fear is, and like I said earlier, you can only serve two masters, right? If you serve one, you're gonna hate the other. Hate is being disobedient. So guess what? If I preach and if I live this truth or this fear, right, it's gonna free me from the other one. So if I say, guess what? I'm not wearing my fringes because everybody that wear fringes is wicked, man. It didn't stop our forefathers from doing the sins they do. Guess what? It freed you from the actual righteousness of the Most High God, right? But if you do the will of the Most High God, right, by default, it says that the righteous are always contending with the wicked. By default, if you do the righteousness of the Most High God, guess what? You're going to be pulled out of the world because the world's going to see that as weird. All right, so let's get the next precept we had listed.
Con.
And to the brother putting that in the chat, Hassan Salaki, if I'm pronouncing that wrong, right? We definitely can do a video on that, showing seeing as why the Sabbath is kept from Friday sundown to Saturday sundown, because we know we have some brothers and sisters who believe in the lunar Sabbath. But we definitely will answer that question for you.
Right. Regardless of days, it's always right. Even if it wasn't a Friday or a Saturday, you know what I'm saying? Regardless, you celebrate your Sabbath from evening to evening, right? So that's why we celebrate like that, because when we read in Genesis, it said that the evening and the morning were the next day. All right. So that's how we determine what our day is. But
Well, he wasn't necessarily harping on the day. He was harping up more so on because I'm led to believe the brother is saying that the new moon should fall on the Shabbat.
Right. He's got, it's the Leviticus, you know what I'm saying? When it talks about the 1st, the 8th, the 15th, the 22nd, the 29th. Like, so if the new moon is the first day of the month, then I mean that should be the Sabbath day, and then 7 days past the new moon, which is the 8th day of the month, should be another Sabbath day. Basically lunar Sabbath. I think that's what the brother's saying. Correct us if we wrong.
right. So why do we celebrate Shabbat on Friday evening to Saturday evening, when even when the new moon falls sometimes a few days before Friday? Oh, so I think the question is, why do we celebrate? So when you read the Bible, and you can go to First Samuel as well, First Samuel chapter 19, 20, and 21 will kind of give you an example of how the days of the month are different from the days of the week, right? You can have the third day of the week, but it could be the 20th day of the month, right? So that new moon ushers in the month, but it doesn't change your week. That's why our weeks are on a continuous cycle. 6 days work, 7 day rest. 6 day work, 7 day rest. If you use only the moon, because you need the moon and the sun. If you use only the moon, right? Guess what? You're going to have sometimes 8 days work and 1 day rest, or 6 days work, 2 transitional days, and then a day of rest. So it's the week has a continuous cycle, and then you have months that are on its own cycle. But
Con, man, and like the brother Yeshaya said, we can do a video on that too if brothers and sisters want us to. But and con to what the brother was saying, right? And that's how we see it here, you know what I'm saying? But like we always say every Shabbat, Shabbat Shalom to all of the Friday to Saturday keepers, right? And then we'll also say Shabbat Shalom to the lunar Sabbath people, right? Because at the end of the day, man, the whole thing is to keep a Sabbath, right? You gotta study to show yourself approved, you know what I'm saying? And the most important thing that we can do right now is rehearse the righteous acts, right? That's why when we look at Christ's words and stuff, he tells us not to judge a man according to how they keep a Shabbat or a feast day, you know what I'm saying? Because they're shadow of things which to come, you know what I'm saying? And so what we're doing is rehearsing the righteous acts. And to saying that, right, we got to understand that Christians can't use that to say, oh, I don't have to keep it, you know what I'm saying? Because you do have to keep it in order to not judge somebody on it. You know what I'm saying? If you got eyes to see and ears to hear, right? But we can definitely do a video on that, going and expounding on, our viewpoint on the new moon, the Shabbat and all that stuff too.
So this is the next precept.
And you're not bothering us, brother, by asking those questions for sure. Might have to do a Q&A one day.
And one thing about us, man, here at the Hopeful Elect, man, we don't get into contention and nothing like that, man. We could talk for hours and hours about, situations in the Bible, certain things in the Bible like that, without strife. You know what I'm saying? It's all love. So ask your questions. We love answering. We love seeing new things, and we're open to everything. You know what I'm saying? Because we believe we can rightfully divide the word of truth. You know what I'm saying? To the best of our ability. But Khan.
So go ahead.
This is the book of Ecclesiastes, chapter 12 and verse 13. Right, this is a classic. Let us hear the conclusion of the whole matter. Fear God and keep his commandments, for this is the whole duty of man.
Right. Fear God and keep his commandments. That's the whole duty. So if you add any other duty to that, right, you're adding to the word. If you add any other duty of that, you're establishing your own righteousness. When all we have to do is fear God and keep his commandments, man. His commandments, right? Because everywhere you go, somebody's establishing something to make you righteous, right? All over social media, brothers and sisters getting on people for cases and charges that are not even charges that are listed in the Bible. And the Bible goes over a lot of charges. So for you to go outside of those, you got to be over righteous. You know what I'm saying? You have to be adding, right, deceptive fear to a congregation or to a certain amount of people to get them to believe what you think is right and not what's right according to the Bible, right? So that's deceptive fear, right? Let's get the next precept. The whole duty of man is to do his commandments, man. And his commandments aren't grievous, right? If you run into a random, for example, let's take this for example. If you run into a random person on the street, right? They keep the Sabbath day, regardless of what Sabbath day they keep. They keep the Sabbath day, they keep the holy days, they keep the dietary law, they believe on Christ, right? They you know what I'm saying? They don't you can't go and just heckle them and say, well, you have to be with a congregation. Well, uh well, you wearing seats? Oh well, yeah, we can't talk. You know what I'm saying? And this right here is the, you know what I'm saying, fear of like men. You know what I'm saying? This is
Right.
a man's fear.
Like you know, you guys might be aware of that it's an older congregation, man. They follow Yahweh ben Yahweh. If you guys ever heard of it, right? And he would tell his men in his congregation, hey, look, you shouldn't be laying down with your wives unless you're trying to make a baby, right? That's the only reason why you should be able to lay down with your wives, right? And so we don't see that through the scripture. That would be laying a burden on the people, right? That would be establishing your own righteousness. You know what I'm saying? That would be adding deceptive fear unto his congregation, right? Because a lot of people are going to take that and they're going to think if they lay with their wife and they're not trying to make a baby, right, that they're going to be destroyed. You know what I'm saying? They're not going to get the kingdom. You know what I'm saying? So,
and you know, there's plenty of stuff like that. You know what I'm saying? Stuff like that, or simple stuff like, you know what I'm saying? Deeming who has the Holy Spirit and who doesn't, because the Holy Spirit operates and rest on people, right, that we least expect it to be, right? Nobody expected the Holy Spirit to rest on Paul. He was just killing Christians, right? Nobody expects the Holy Spirit to land on somebody that was on dope, right? That might curse a little too much, but they changed their life around and now they're keeping the law, statutes, and commandments. Nobody expects the Spirit to land on those people, but when you establish your own righteousness, you're the one calling the shots now. The Most High God's not calling the shots. The Spirit's not, you know what I'm saying, going wherever it wants to. You're the one that deems where the Spirit is and where the Spirit's not. You're the one that deems who's righteous and who's not righteous and who's wicked, right? But Khan, let's read this real quick. 2 Kings chapter 17 and 35.
Khan, with whom the Lord had made a covenant and charged them, saying, ye shall not fear other gods, nor bow yourselves to them, nor serve them, nor sacrifice to them.
Right. So I went here because it says, ye shall not fear other gods. He could have said, well, he did say serve, he did say sacrifice, he did say bow, because guess what? When you fear something, you're giving power to it. Right. So that's why he says to fear God and keep his commandments, because if you fear anything else, that's idolatry. You're giving power to that thing that's making you fearful. Right. A lot of our brothers and sisters in days of old gave power to Nebuchadnezzar, gave power to Darius, gave power to Cyrus, gave power to Artaxerxes, gave power to Caesar, right? Because they hearkened to these kings, bowed down to them at the sound of the psaltery and the harp, right? They sacrificed to these Molech and Ashtoreth, right? They feared these gods, right? And that's what made it idolatry. So in today's world, in something simple, you could fear a crime's about to happen. You fear the police. Guess what? If you fear the police, you're giving power to them, right? And that right there is idolatry. We're not supposed to fear nothing but the Most High God, the one that can kill mind, body, and spirit, right? So deceptive fear is putting fear in you that's not the Most High God. And a fear that's not the Most High God is a fear that's not contained in his law, statutes, and commandments, right? If you're scared to do something that you cannot find in the Bible, for example, we said it earlier, courting. Courting is not in the Bible, right? But if you're fearing for salvation because of something of like a topic like that, guess what? That's not the fear of the Most High God. You're adding grievous situations and charges to the law when it doesn't need that, right? Go ahead.
Con. Um, just like when we read in Mark 10, where we see everybody was, scoffing at Christ, almost like they was getting ready to stone this man, all because he didn't wash his hands before he ate, right? There's nowhere in the law that says you have to wash your hands before you eat, right? And he was trying to make that known. You know what I'm saying? That, hey, this is a burden that you guys are putting on folks. Yes, it might be expedient to wash your hands before you eat, but right, this is a burden that you're putting on folks because people thinking, hey, look, they might not make it to the kingdom if they don't wash their hands before they eat, right?
Right.
And that was never written, right?
Right.
So
And
we gotta
also too, you know what I'm saying? On the flip side, you'll have people that say that, oh, you're not righteous because you only want to give alms to the people that worship your God, right? You only want to help out people that worship your God. If they serve any other God, or if they're living in sin and willfully sinning, you don't want nothing to deal with. You don't want to give them no charity, no alms. And they'll say that we're not righteous for that because they're ignorant of the righteousness of God. When you go back and read our forefathers and our foremothers and how they gave charity and alms to brethren, or sisters, or God-fearing men, or gave alms to those that fear the Lord, right? And even when we give alms to the homeless in our congregations, keyword congregation, right? They would be banished if they wasn't worshiping the Most High God of Israel, right? They wouldn't even be with us, right? Even if they are homeless, guess what? And we feeding them, it's because they worship the Most High God and try to do His law, statutes, and commandments, right? And that's righteousness with God. But a lot of these things that's actually in the Bible, like we read earlier, we become their people's enemy because it's a different type of righteousness, right? It's the righteousness that they was taught was from the commandments of men, like we went over, right? But the fear that they were taught, how to fear the Most High God, was taught by the commandments of men. For example, a lot of, you know what I'm saying, in the Christian church, or just random people in the world, if you judge anybody, or if you're not willing to say you love everybody, they feel like, you know what I'm saying, you're not going to make it into the kingdom, right? If you are not against war, and the Bible says the Lord is a man of war, but if you're not against war, right, and peace everywhere, right, you're not going to make it into the kingdom. If you don't go to church every Sunday, you don't pay your tithes, you don't respect the pastor, right? Guess what? You're not going to make it into the kingdom. And that's a fear being put on the people, right? From childhood, right? And that fear is deceptive fear, because the Most High God doesn't care about your food in the vestibule, right? I know we used to pride ourselves when we were in the church that we was in church all day, right? I went to this service, then that service, and then we ate. And I can't ask my parents, can we hurry up and go home? Because, that's not righteous. I got to, you know what I'm saying, just be patient and eat these abominable foods in the back of the church. You know what I'm saying? And that's a fear that's put on you from men, not from the Most High God. The Most High God doesn't ask for all that. The Most High God doesn't ask for a 3-piece suit, right? The Most High God don't ask for, even in the truth, the Most High God don't ask for the biggest fringes, right? The Most High God, He don't ask nothing grievous of you. He just asks to do these commandments, man. That's all. Anything else is the fear of men, right? So let's read this real quick.
right. This is Isaiah chapter 29 and verse 13. Wherefore the Lord said, for as much as this people draw near me with their mouth and
Saying
with their
what? Man, I love God. You don't love God? What's wrong with you? Right? Saying, God, I love the Most High. God is my Father, man. I can go to Him with anything. That's my homeboy. They draw near with their mouth,
and what their lips do honor me, but
Right.
have removed their heart far from me.
Right. Meaning what? Their actions don't line up. Why do their actions not line up? Let's read the next part.
Not only that, when you talk about heart, we all know that when you talk about the heart, it's talking about your mind, right? When you talk about it, their mind is far from them. Yeah, you got put God first in your bio, right? But where's your mind really, geared towards, right? A lot of these people, especially in the world, they got God first in their bio. They can't tell you the last time they opened up their Bible. They
They
can't
don't
tell
even
you,
have a hard copy Bible.
you know what I'm saying? And it's like God's first in you saying God's first, but you run into the gym to work out 3 times a day, right? To put up shots 3 times a day, right? You're not reading. And when you do read, you're reading about how to make it to the NBA.
Right.
You
Even
watch when you when
even
you
with the women, you know what I'm saying? They'll go to the gym just to work on their glutes, right? Got God first in their bio, but the first thing I see is not God on your page. The first thing I see is you're behind.
right. You eat, sleep, and drink certain things, and hey, if you want to be honest, man, we talk about ratios, right? Like how and a proper balance, right? And especially in the truth, you know what I'm saying? It's like, dang, how much time did I dedicate to the Most High today, right? But if you're in the world, and I'm saying this because I used to be in the world, right? Back when I was in the world, there was days where, you know what I'm saying, the only time I dedicated to the Most High God, right, was right before I fell asleep, and I had to send up a prayer, and that was like, half behind prayer, right? There's days where you go and there's nothing dedicated to God. There's no time dedicated to God. But yeah, if you talk to somebody, you tell them you always keep God first in your life, right?
Right.
And your heart is always towards him, right? Your mind is always toward him. No, it's not. Your mind is toward, speaking about me, my mind was towards getting to the NBA, playing overseas, right? I woke up, I was already depressed when I woke up, right? I was already in bondage mentally because I woke up and I wasn't in the NBA or I wasn't making money playing ball, right? And so now my whole mind is geared towards playing ball, right? I eat, right? I'm trying to eat like a professional athlete, right? When I watch YouTube and stuff, I'm not watching breakdowns and stuff like that. What am I watching? I'm watching basketball drills and stuff like that, right? You know what I'm saying? I'm going to the gym. Sometimes I'm going to the gym just to be in the gym. I'm not even doing that. I'm just in the gym just to say, hey, look, I'm in the lab, right?
And
At least
also, you know what I'm saying? When you live in that lifestyle of ball is life, people walk around with balls, just basketballs in their hand, just walk around because coaches tell them, you want to get a good feel for the ball, just walk. It got to be a part of your daily life. But we don't make the Most High God part of our daily life,
right?
We don't, and once again, that's deceptive fear. That fear is taught by Christian dogma, right? It's easy as ABC, right? Accept, believe, and confess. They believe once, and remember what I said. Once you serve one God, right, you can't serve the other. So it frees them from doing everything else because I've confessed that God's first. I confess that God's always right, and that's how they get caught up when we catch them on the street corners or when we evangelize because they confess that God's right, but then when we show them what God say, they have a hard time believing, right,
Right.
that God is right.
Not only that, it's like, they'll tell you that they love God, but you can't even name the 10 commandments, right? And I'm not saying like, you know what I'm
I
saying,
know God. I talk to him every
the,
night.
the whole book memorized. But what I'm saying is if you can't, you don't even have to list the 10 commandments, right? Ask somebody just to name 10 random commandments, right? They can't do it. And that's a problem. And you say that you got God, you putting God's first and your heart is towards God and you love God, but you can't even name 10 things that he commanded you to do.
A lot
That
of
is
times they can't
wild.
even. Hey, look, a lot of times they can't even name 3 things, right? They'll go straight to "Thou shalt not kill." I don't know, man. It's escaping me right now. If you love God, it shouldn't escape you, right?
Right.
But check this out though. Read how they are far from God, right? When God says, "Guess what? Depart from me, I never knew you." This is why. Read how.
And their fear toward me is
And they're
top.
what?
And their fear towards me,
Fear, right? Harping on that word fear, right? Because God, hey, look, He wants you to fear Him, but how He says it. Keep going.
is taught by the precept of men.
right? So there's a deceptive fear being taught by men in the truth, outside the truth, right? In the world, in prison systems, and school systems, and governments. There's a fear that's being taught saying what's right and what's wrong. That's not of God. That's not God. God tells us how to fear him, but guess what?
Somebody,
But men also tell men how to fear God.
right?
You wanna worship God? You gotta call him this name. You want to worship God? You gotta do this on this day. You God, oh, you can't do this. You can't wear that, right? And that's precept of men. That's adding to the word. That's making his laws, statutes, commandments grievous. And that's why when we talk to people that have had encounters with people in the truth, they don't like it because they've had precept of men. That's why when we talk to people that came out of the Christian church, they don't like church because they've been taught precept of men. They've been taught a fear that's not biblical, right? That deceptive fear, right?
And like we say, man, there's enough laws and commandments in the Bible to harp on. You don't have to make your own. You know what I'm saying? You don't have to establish your own. It says that's a mighty precept. It says, and their fear toward me is taught by the precepts of men, right? Just for an elementary viewpoint, right? This is like saying, like we said, oh, you don't really fear the Most High God if you don't keep Christmas. You don't keep Christmas? You don't love Jesus? You know what I'm saying? You don't really fear God if what's another thing, man? If you don't go to church every Sunday, right? That's adding a fear that was never there.
You don't have a pastor? You don't.
Right. That's a precept of a man, right?
You're not in a camp. You're not in a camp.
Hey, look, your congregations, your camps, your churches, right? Your religions, your organizations, right? Your mission statement is not superseding the law, statutes, and commandments, right? And it should not even be on the same level.
So, like you too, you going to college does not make you a good person. You finishing college doesn't make you a good person because you have a degree, but a picture of a cap and gown. Because guess what? There's people starving in other places in the country, and you praying that you make it across the stage on time. You know what I'm saying? The fear that you have is not of the Bible, and it has you thinking all discombobulated, right? But let's read verse 14, right?
Can I read what the brother just said too, man? Because it's a mighty point, man. He said we walk around with the basketball, but scared to walk around with the Bible in our hand because people think you're crazy. I've been working on a lot of that in myself. Hey, watch this. When I was in the world, this is true story. I was in the world, right? And this is back when I was in the fraternity and all this stuff. We was about to go out, and one of my ex-line brothers, right? He brought one of his friends, right? And he was telling everybody about his friend. Hey, when he get here, he a little off, he a little weird, right? He's gonna have a Bible in his hand. He doesn't go anywhere without it, right? And so at the time, everybody was, making fun of him, like, what the heck? Who you bringing around us, bro? That's weird. Lo and behold, this man walks through the door and he has a Bible in his hand, right? And at this time, man, I knew a little bit about the truth, right? I wasn't keeping the law, statutes, and commandments, but I knew about the truth. So I wasn't scoffing, right? But this man's holding the Bible. It kind of convicted me, though, right? Because I'm like, where's my Bible at? You know what I'm saying? And it's folly, too, because we ended up going to a club and everything, man. And this man had the Bible in his hand the whole time. The whole time. I'm talking about it was folly because and I could tell he was a Christian because I looked over and this man's getting a dance from a girl with the Bible in his hand. You know what I'm saying? I understand, but the point of the story is, you know what I'm saying? The brother came around with a Bible in his hand and people did think he was crazy. People did think he was off, right? But if you walk around with a basketball in your hand, right, people treat you like you the cool nigga. You know what I'm saying?
Hey, I want to make a point too. And everybody, I can speak for myself, but I'll still say everybody. Everybody, just because it's just the way I talk, but everybody has felt this feeling before, and it's a fear that the world puts on you to love the Most High God, right? When we come into the truth, that intensifies and magnifies because we actually know how to love the Most High God and what love is. But even in the world, think about it. A lot of us, we're timid or we're hesitant or we're scared to blast gospel music out the car or blast a street teaching or a lesson out the car. But when it comes to wicked music that got nice bass, or when it comes to all these other things that we might be playing and like to hear, or that favorite R&B song or whatever, we blasting that as loud as the speakers go. You know what I'm saying? Want everybody to hear it when we come into the into the parking lot.
And
right?
that really boils down to what the brother B More was actually talking about tonight, man. Envy, right? It deep down inside that stems from envy, right? That fear stems from envy. And envy of what? Envy of the world. That's why you're afraid to wear your fringes out in public, but you go wear the white man's designer out in public with no problem.
Right.
You know what I'm saying?
And that all goes back to fear. Who do you fear? Do you fear men or do you fear the Most High God? Right? Because guess what? If the Most High God was here on the earth, you wouldn't be scared to wear your fringes. You wouldn't be scared to blast worship music. You wouldn't be scared to blast that lesson out your car. You know what I'm saying? But because he's not, and we don't walk by faith, everybody walks by sight. Guess what? Now you fearing men, and now you bumping that gospel, that R&B song. You bumping that new Drake, that new Future, right? But when you play it, the stuff that really matters, oh, it's turned down some. I can't let the Edomites hear this. Oh, I can't let people know that I'm in the truth. Oh, I gotta be wise as a serpent. Oh, I can't. You know what I'm saying? So who do we really fear, right? It's deceptive fear out here being pushed on us by men, and that's what the media does. The media wants to push us in a certain light, so a lot of people don't like that, right? A lot of people are fearful of that, but it's coming to a point to where you're gonna have to pick a side, whether it comes with the criticism and the bashing and the belittling and the name calling. Even if that doesn't fit your personality, you're gonna have to pick a side. Are you going to be down with us, or are you gonna be on the other side?
Kind. And I want to add too, if I could, Salakia, but I want to say that, man, I don't know about y'all brothers, but I definitely was the church music blasting brother in the world. I was the bride of day, bride of day, bride of day. Hey, that's my song. Hey, that's my song.
And look, I used to do it just because of what I just said. It used to, but I ain't gonna lie, when I did it, I had a smile on my face and I had that reputation like, oh, that's just Austin. You know what I'm saying? Even when I was in the frat house, when I was in Greek life, it might be in the middle of a party or something, and I turn that thing on. People might leave, but you're gonna always have that salt of the earth that stay and get into it. But I was always doing that because I said, man, I'm always one to chastise my flesh, right? And if it makes my flesh feel bad, I just got to do it. So when I got that feeling of why am I turning this down, my conscience makes me turn it all the way up. You know what I'm saying? So I was just like you, brother Yeshai, you know what I'm saying? Had to do that for the Most High God. Not because I'm over righteous, but because of my fear for him over men.
Hey, man, it was them days down at Fort Valley where you and your whip, man, with all the windows down, man. And Fort Valley is a small town, man. But, hey, look, you riding around, if you go to Dollar General, blasting that Kurt Franklin, that Marvin Sapp, that Fred Hammond.
I used to blast that Chicago Mass Choir.
Man.
My mind is made up. I'm going to praise the Lord. You know how that song?
I used to be on that Marvin Sapp and Fred Hammond. I ain't gonna cap, man. I used to be blasting that. Give me a clean heart. But I used to blast. I used to blast my guys though. I ain't gonna lie to you.
I gotta rebuke the brother Ryan from WFI though, man. Hey, he was doing a video one day and he was going into Saul, and he talking about some. When you hear that church music, that's the devil music. When you start hearing that tap, clap, tap, clap, tap, clap, tap, clap, you're like, that's how you know the devil coming. I was like, hey, that's madness, brother.
Yeah, that's a little salt, man. How else you supposed to praise the Lord without a little salt, man? You know what I'm saying? Yeah, man, that's the topic for another day. But Con, let's get the next precept. And that's the topic for today. We got brothers and sisters saying, oh, you can't dance for the Lord. Right? But King David danced for the Lord. You got brothers and sisters say, well, you can't listen to that. Right? This stuff is not in the Bible. That's fear being placed on you. Oh, you listen to gospel music? You're not going to have salvation. You're not going to make it, brother. Guess what? That's fear being taught from men.
Now, it is wise to, actually listen to the lyrics of some of the gospel songs. Because some of them be off. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah. Con.
Hey, no cap though. They got a new song out called "Drop It Low for Jesus." You know what I'm saying? So make sure y'all go tune into that. Deacon Sakari posted on his page.
I was about to say, only brother Yeshai knows about stuff like that, man.
Nah, man, I'm not making that up, bro.
Nah, I'm playing.
Drop it low for Jesus. You got girls in there doing the potluck. You drop it. You know what I'm saying?
Hey man, the church is not even a church no more. It's a concert, man. It's a comedy show, and it's a concert, and it's a movie theater or a dinner theater. And man, it's not even a, you know what I'm saying? But anyway, let's move on. You know what I'm saying?
Most High willing, I'm gonna play that at camp tomorrow.
The book of Psalms, chapter 119 and verse 104.
Gone.
Through thy precepts I get understanding. Therefore I hate every false way.
Right. So hey, once you do these precepts, by default, you're gonna hate every other false way because you know that this is the truth now. You know what I'm saying? But the thing about it is, if you do the other stuff, by default, it's gonna have you not doing the stuff that's in the precepts. For example, you could try to keep all the last statutes and commandments, but as soon as you celebrate your birthday, like we talked earlier, you you break one, you're guilty of them all, right? So by default, the Most High God set it up to where you can't serve two masters. You can only serve one, or you can serve the other. But we get this understanding through the precepts. Whose precepts? Thy precepts, right? Not of men, but of the Most High God, right? Thy precepts.
And I got a precept too, man. 1 John 4 and 18. Going into understanding, deceptive fear. People confuses. It says there is no fear in love, but perfect love casteth out fear, right? So when it says there is no fear in love at all, right? Well, let's read it, right? And it said that, matter of fact, start at verse 16. Scroll up a little bit. I want to say verse 16, it says, and we have known and believed that the love that God hath to us. God is love, and he that dwelleth in love dwelleth in God, and God in him. Herein is our love made perfect, that we may have boldness in the day of judgment, because as he is, so are we in this world, right? So when you understand verse 8, when you read verse 16 and 17, that's giving you the understanding of verse 18, right? When it says there is no fear in love, but perfect love casteth out fear. Like the brother said, deceptive fear. There is no fear when you love the Most High, right? There is no fear. Why? Because you're understanding that perfect love of the Most High will cast out all fear from within you.
Right,
Why? Because literally, to fear the Lord thy God is to love him. Well, to
right,
love him is to fear him,
right,
right? It
right.
goes hand in hand. Like if you love
And,
the Most High, you fear him.
right. And like that precept we just read, you're gonna hate every false way. So guess what? I've seen brothers struggle with this because a lot of people will come to you and be like, y'all keep saying fear God, fear God, fear. First of all, we're not saying fear God. The Bible's saying fear God. Y'all keep saying fear God, fear God, fear. Don't move yet, Denal. Don't move yet. Y'all keep saying fear God, fear God, fear God, and they'll pull up this precept. There's no fear in love, brother. There's no fear in love. There's no fear in love. You know how perfect love. That's why you're fearing him. We supposed to do this out the goodness of our heart. No, that's not what it's talking about. It's talking about what Yeshaya is talking about. People have added a different fear, right? They have put, like the brother Denal said, they put burdens on the people that are not contained in the law, right? They
Right,
they have been teaching this stuff and added fear to the people. There was fear. That's why Gentiles wanted to stay Gentiles, because they was like, man, the Jews are asking too much. That's why people was, shaking whenever they saw the Pharisees, right? That's why the Pharisees didn't like the fame that Christ was getting. Why? Because they were content and they were happy to put fear on people because that fear brought respect to them, right? But we're only supposed to give respect to the Most High God. So there's no fear of men. There's no fear of the burden. There's no fear of the Pharisees in love. What is love? Fearing the Most High God, not
right.
man. Keeping the
Because
commandments.
because
But
when it says,
too. But
oh, go
perfect
ahead.
love casteth out fear. That's why it says we hate every false way, right? Because if you're doing the will of God, perfect love, the law, statutes, commandments, right? You're gonna cast out everything that's false. All the other fear that's not contained in this Bible, you cast it off, right? Go ahead.
You said it.
Oh, Salakia.
It's all good. But Khan, I mean,
Oh, that's a mighty precept, though.
yeah, the brothers don't, what I'm saying, don't struggle with 1 John 4 and 18. Brothers and sisters, don't struggle with 1 John 4 and 18. It's not hard because it's just like an analogy like this. I love my mom till this day, right? But hey, This is how I fear my mom when my mom tells me to do something and I don't do it. But if my mom were to tell me to do something and I did it, that's showing perfect love. I have no fear of anything that my mom will do because why? I'm obeying her. If I'm
Right.
obedient to the Most High, I'm not worried about the Most High's judging me because I'm obedient to Him. I serve Him through
But
and
at
through.
this, but Slock it too, and it's crazy because the Most High God is a mastermind. Because even though you don't fear Him because you're obeying Him, you still fear Him, and that's why you're
You're
obeying Him,
obeying Him, right?
right?
Right.
So a lot of times, stuff in this New Testament is a little complex, bro. It's too. It really is very complex. You know what I'm saying?
Right.
And you
It's
would
crazy.
right, and you will wrestle with it to your own destruction, and it will cause you to sin because
And
of the words that's being said.
that's a great analogy too, man. Because when you think about it, right? You don't fear your parents, right? You don't fear the Most High when you know you're doing what you're supposed to do, right? When you know you're doing what you're supposed to do, you don't expect to get punished, right? That's like when your parents came home mad and you honestly do not know why they're mad at you, and they're like, you know what you did, and you honestly like, Mom, I don't know, but she getting the belt out anyway. You know what I'm saying? It catches you off guard, right? But like the verse is saying, right? If you're doing what you're supposed to do, you don't have to fear of any judgment that's gonna come with that, right? But what brings in the confusion is when you do what you're supposed to do, right? And people come and they try to put burdens on you, right? And they try to put fear on you that confuses you. Like, okay, I know I'm doing the law, statutes, and commandments, but he just came to me and said, if I don't wash my hands, right, I might be destroyed. I didn't know that. I didn't know that. Now a fear's coming. Like, you know what I'm saying? But it's like, bro, you was okay because you was content in the law, statutes, and commandments that's written in this Bible. When somebody else came with a different fear, right? A fear that was taught by a precept of man, right? Now it's adding confusion. It's adding a burden to the people. And that's what it's doing, right? You know what I'm saying? That extra burden, that deceptive fear is adding confusion to the law of God.
Right.
That's why Christ had to come to set things straight, because people was walking around confused.
Right. That's why it says because fear hath torment, right? The Most High God's not going to torment us, right? If we do His will. He that feareth is not made perfect in love, meaning the whole concept of the New Testament is the law was our schoolmaster, right? To lead us to Christ. And now we have the Spirit. And if you're led by the Spirit and if you're spiritual, right, you judge in all things and you can't be judged because guess what? You're in perfect love, right?
Right. First, hey, Salakia, and before you move on, hey, 1 Corinthians 14:33, we know that God is not the author of confusion, you know. So when you start following the Most High, you know what I'm saying, and you have people who come with their understanding and interpretations that's not sound, that's not biblical doctrine, right? It's not good doctrine. Then you start to take heed to that. That's when you start getting confused, right? So now you questioning if what you believe is not right because they say this. Well, if they're saying that, you have to go back to the foundation of your belief and understand that, look, if it's not of the Most High God, then there's no light in the person who's speaking, right? So you need to do away with anything that's causing you to fear man and not fear the Most High.
If any
And
man
so,
speak, let them
example,
speak of the
oracles of God, right?
Right.
So another example of fear, right? It would be I'm keeping the law, statutes, and commandments, and me and my rib, we're married, and we both made vows to each other. But this brother said, if I don't go get a ring, and if I don't go to the courthouse, then the Most High God's not gonna honor my marriage. And now you're fearing that the Most High God don't honor your marriage. You know what I'm saying? But we read multiple cases of different type of marriages all throughout the Bible, right? Or it could be a fear of, oh, the brother used his microwave on the Shabbat. You can't use your microwave on the Shabbat, but you know what I'm saying? You're just living in fear constantly, right? Some people say it's lighting a fire. Some people say it's not, it's electricity. Some people say X, Y, and Z. Some people say, well, they were just saying because it's a lot of work to get a fire going. So you just spark that fire and then, you keep adding oil to it so it burns throughout the Sabbath. But nowadays we have electricity, and the thing about it is a lot of people just add so much it's like we come into the truth, we learn how to fear the Most High God, but now that's not enough. We get off on fear now, and we got to always look to ways to chastise ourselves and to put that chastisement on other people to establish our own righteousness, right? To make us um appeal to the Most High God. But guess what? The Most High God is happy that we're just in the truth. He's happy that we're just trying to keep the law, statutes, commandments. That's
And
the whole duty.
here's another point, right? If you're sold on something, right, but you can't necessarily, say it's 100% fact, right? That's okay, right? You do what's best for you. That's why another aspect of fear says is a classic precept that says we all gotta do our own due diligence to fear God for ourselves with fear and trembling. You know what I'm saying?
That's
We all
Philippians 2:12.
You know what I'm saying? Everybody has a personal walk, right? So whether you believe you can use the microwave on the Shabbat and you got your reasons for it, right? As long as you're being genuine and sincere, right? And you're not just trying to, try to get around the law and stuff like that. Okay, brother. You know what I'm saying? If you and vice versa, if you don't think you should be using the microwave, by all means, don't use the microwave. Even if a brother says, "Oh, you can use the microwave," right? If it's not sitting well with you, don't do it, right?
And Khan too, we got to be gentle with one another when it comes to giving the correct fear, right? For example, I had a conversation with a brother through a direct message, and he asked me my take on seaweed or sea moss because he doesn't take it, but his wife takes it. And he said, yeah, a lot of people say, it's wicked, we can't, blah, blah, blah. And I just sent him the scripture in Leviticus, you know what I'm saying, of all that we can eat in the water, of all living things, of all moving things, of all creeping things that's in the water, right? He says, yeah, I see your point, but it still doesn't mean that to me, right? At that point, you know what I'm saying? I can't instill my fear to him just because I fear the Most High God and read it and see it this way. I can't put my fear on him, right? The Most High God might be, the Spirit might be working with him different than it's working for me. I might be wrong. He might be wrong. But at the end of the day, you let the scriptures talk, and anything outside of that, it's not for you to add that fear to the people. You know what I'm saying? You're not supposed to add your fear to the people. If you do, guess what? You're gonna end up sea moss is algae, not moss. Hey, Con, I don't believe in eating it, but that's a story for another day. But you know what I'm saying? You're gonna end up being like Paul, right? Paul was putting his fear of a blasphemer on everybody. So he ended up killing multiple people, right? Putting that fear on them to not even confess themselves to be Christian, followers of Christ, right? He was pretty much doing like the Greeks did in the Maccabees, right? And we couldn't confess ourselves to be Jews or else we would be killed. You can't confess yourself to follow Christ or else you're going to be killed. And that same fear is here, that deceptive fear is here on the earth today, and we're going to see ourselves be persecuted for being in the truth, right? But Khan, we go to the next precept.
What's it? Psalm 119 and 142.
Hey, dude, read Deuteronomy 4:2, man. Deuteronomy 4:2. You shall not add to the law nor diminish from it aught. You know what I'm saying?
All right, and read
Because
Revelation 22.
Right, because hey, you start doing things like that, man, you playing with a dangerous game. You start saying that you don't have to do certain aspects of the law, which we understand there was a change in the law, but not as in you don't have to keep the law. You know what I'm saying? There's just an understanding that certain circumstances, certain things of the law cannot be fulfilled until a certain point of time, right? Certain ways and rituals and aspects of the law. That does not mean that the entirety of the law is diminished. So when you start telling people they don't have to do certain things, now you're playing with dangerous game. Then you start adding to the law, saying, well, because the law says this, then that means this. Now you're playing an even more dangerous game.
Because you got to think, what are the weightier matters of the law? Mercy, right? And so the whole thing is, like Job said, how right are forcible words for you dig a pit for your friend? What does that mean? You might be right, brother. You might be right, sister. But the more that you put this truth out and keep putting this truth out, and they're not at a place to receive it yet, they might receive it down the line, but because you came at them in a way to where they just, because we all can come at each other in a way to where we just automatically reject it, right? You might come at them a way to where they dig a pit for themselves, you know what I'm saying? And they reject the truth because of the way you came at them. But ultimately, you know what I'm saying? We just gotta plant seeds and let the Most High God put His fear in them to do what's right or what's wrong, right? And pray for our sakes that we're sheep as well, and we know how to follow the Most High God's spirit.
Right. Psalms 119. What's the next precept?
119 and 142
Con.
or 104.
104.
Nah, we just read 104, didn't we? Through thy
Nah.
precepts,
Oh,
I can
yeah,
understand it.
yeah. Con. I'm bugging. I'm bugging, B. Romans 1 and 25.
Hey, you gotta forgive if you watch him. Forgive the brother Donald, man. Hey, he technology is one of his strong points.
Con, I can just fall in love with it so much that I'll be all over the place sometimes. You when you love something, man, you love every bit of it. You feel me?
It's just
And
like a woman, man. I'm all
you
over every
sometimes
part of the body.
sometimes you can be all over the place sometimes.
Right.
Yeah, you said it first, not me.
This is the book of Romans, chapter 1, and verse number 25. It says, who changed the truth of God into a lie?
Right. This is manyfold, right? There's many things that's the truth of God. What's the truth of God, right? These words, right? The words that I speak to you, they are life, right? They are
And
truth.
worship and serve the creature more than the creator.
Right? Who's the creature? Right? The creature is the creation, right? You're worshiping you're worshiping people, you're worshiping idols more than the creator who's blessed forever. You know what I'm saying? And they turn the truth of God into a lie. No, no, brother, you're not going to be you're not going to the lake of fire for listening to gospel music. No, sister, you're not going to you're not going to I can't even think of no, I can't. It's so many different examples of fear that's been placed on us from men because we see other men and think that they're mighty, or we see other sisters and think that they're righteous. You know what I'm saying? And that we allow that to instill fear in us, and now we fear that person more than we fear the Most High God. Now whatever they say is law. Now whatever they say is righteous. Well, if he's doing this, then that must be righteous. Well, if they're saying we can't do this, then that must be not righteous. You know what I'm saying? But
Right. Right. It's important to understand that anytime you're dealing with the word and you're dealing with laws, man, people get emotional and sensitive. And I'm not even going to say sensitive, Salakia, but people do get emotional about defending what they believe to be the truth because why? Everybody wants to get it right. Nobody wants to be wrong. And if you're wrong, you feel like, you've been in sin and it's going to cause you to be sorrowful, like, whoa, it's me, this, that, and the third. This is why certain times, certain conversations are necessary. Certain um certain topics are necessary, and when it comes to understanding the law, it's important for you to go back to the law and go back to where it is written, right? It say, blessed is he that readeth and they that hear the words of this prophecy. That's Revelations 1 and 3. And that's going to understand that you have to go and read for yourself, right? Study to show thyself approved, that way you may be able to rightly divide the word of truth. Because if we take, even people who watch us, don't just take for what we say and then think that that's the right thing. We trust me, to our knowledge, to the through the spirit and to the best of our abilities, we will give you what we believe to be the correct understanding of something. However, don't just say that just because we say that and then just be like, well, they're right. No, go find it in the law, which is why people have scribes when they do lessons and videos. Salakia that, we don't scribe on our YouTubes, but it's important that people have scribes so you can see where they're pulling from. You know what I'm saying? You have to pay attention to the way people talk when they're breaking something down, the mannerisms, the words that they use, because you got to understand the most important thing that you need to focus on is the scripture that they're bringing out, right? and then pay attention to what they're expounding on in terms of that. And if they're not adding it up, you can go back to Psalms 119 and 104. Through thy precepts I get understanding. If this not adding up what they're saying, then you obviously have to go back precept upon precept according to Isaiah 28. That's how deceptive fear kicks in, because people fail to go and study for themselves. People fail to understand that I need to go see what it says in the word versus what Bishop T.D. Jakes says, or what this brother in the truth says, or what that sister in the truth said, right? You have to do these things importantly for yourself, because hey, you don't want to establish your own righteousness, and then in that day you looking like, well, I thought did that in the third. I can pull the next precept. I can read it off the phone till the brother Donald gets back.
All right.
I'm here.
Oh, brother probably just feasting, you know what I'm saying, on the Lord's day, but at least it's not his day.
Eating a salad.
Let me see. This is the book of Slakia. But this is the book of Psalms, chapter 119, and verse number 142. Right. Oh, Slakia, I'm went to 142 and 119. Slakia, 119 and 142.
The brothers all over the place. Be patient with them.
Oh my gosh. And it says right here, thy righteousness is an everlasting righteousness, and thy law is the truth.
And the what is the truth?
And thy law is the truth.
Right. So that's the truth. So when we want to, you know what I'm saying, preach, or we want to teach people, we got to teach them the law, and the law is the truth. Right. And like the brother said earlier, we do it to the best of our abilities, because we're living in we're still living in Bible days. Don't get me wrong. Prophecy got to play out, but we're living in different times. Right. So meaning the law probably would have been not changed, but altered to our lifestyles. For example, we was talking about kindling a fire. We don't kindle fires no more. We have electricity. So we don't know if that's considered X, Y, and Z sometimes. Or when it comes to celebrating certain things in the land of our captivity, right? Or when it comes to certain governing laws in the modern day society today, right? We know that you know what I'm saying, the truth is the law, but you have to be practical with it as well, right? So when you're not practical with it, you end up giving a fear and a torment to people that is not needed, right? And now they are perplexed in their mind. Now they are in a ponder, right, of always combating what they're doing. Whether am I doing this right? Am I doing this okay? Is this to the T? Is this? And we want to be to the T, but you got to understand we can't add, right, because of our own opinions of it, right? And that's adding a fear or a torment that we've been reading about through these precepts, right? Go ahead.
I want to let me back on that, man. And just expounding on different takes on certain things, like the brother was saying, right? And before I say this, man, hey, look, I'm not disclosing whether or not your boy agrees with one thing or another, right? But you got to think, man, there's certain ways certain people look at scriptures, right? And I know some people may look at what the brother just brought up as something to take into consideration, whether or not you can use like the microwave and stuff like that on the Shabbat and stuff, right? We see like stuff powered like the microwave, right? And some certain brothers will be like, well, if you can't ignite a microwave, then you can't ignite your car, right? Also, when you go to the precept that says you shouldn't kindle a fire on the Shabbat, right? I've heard brothers explain it like this. they put emphasis on the part you're not supposed to do is the kindling part, right? So it says don't kindle a fire on the Shabbat, right? It's just like if somebody had a precept that says do not make your bed on the Shabbat, right? It's not telling you that your bed should never be made up on the Shabbat. It's saying, hey, look, don't make up your bed on the Shabbat. It's not saying if your bed is made on Shabbat, go and mess it up because it's not supposed to be made. If that makes sense to brothers, you know what I'm saying? But the point that we're trying to harp on is, hey, look, man, you got to study to show yourself approved, and don't let somebody else, you know, tell you something without you going and do your due diligence. You know what I'm saying, for it to sup with your spirit. You know
Right.
what I'm saying?
And like the brother's been saying, all of it might come out of sincerity, and we'll see in the truth, or we'll even see in the world in Christian churches, relationship 101 with pastor so and so, and everything that they say is that's become law to you when it comes to relationships. Now my man's supposed to do this. Now I'm supposed to do this in a relationship because pastor so and so said this. Or we might have a breakdown video. This is a mighty man of Israel, and everything in there you want to stick to a T, and that person's opinions that he added into some of the breakdowns, now that's law to you as well, right?
I
So
want I wanted to say one thing real quick too, right? Because a lot of people might be saying, well, why do they keep harping on this Kindle part, right? Because people see it as kindling a fire was an actual thing back then, where it took actual effort to kindle a fire, right? Like, brothers' muscles is creating friction, right? You're hitting stuff kind of hard and whatnot. It was, actually,
because they didn't have a Bunsen burner or a lighter or a torch.
right? It was actually taking stuff out of you. It's like taking energy out of you to do that. You know what I'm saying? And so now, brothers look at it as, well, it's nothing to press a button. You know what I'm saying? And so, I mean, brothers got, different opinions of things here and there, man. But the important thing is that, it sups with your spirit, whatever you're doing, right? And that you're doing it in sincerity.
Right. And the bottom line for this video is fearing the Most High God, not man. So whatever you're doing, do it because you fear God, not because you fear what so and so said, or you fear what so and so's ideology or his breakdown. You read it, study to show yourself approved, rightly divide the word of truth, and let your motives be from the fear that you have for the Most High God. I'm not gonna watch any folly or Netflix shows, or I'm not gonna watch anything wicked on a Shabbat because of my fear. I want to respect the Most High God that way. My fear says that's a pleasure that's not needed, right? But some brother might say, well, there's nothing wrong with watching it, and let that brother watch it, right? Because at the end of the day, you know what I'm saying? We can't add a fear that's not said in the Bible, right? If you can't give righteous examples in the Bible from forefathers and foremothers doing what you said, then 9 times out of 10, you need to just keep that fear to yourself, and you worship the Most High God that way, right? If somebody asks how you do it, then guess what? Then you can give them how you do it, all right? But a lot of us, a lot of times, we want to project our fear, our understanding onto people, and the whole duty of man is just to fear God and keep His commandments, right? Not deceptive fear.
Khan, and I want to say, man, this is going back to knowing your T. You know what I'm saying? Like the brother said earlier, the brother Azrael said earlier, we all want to get it down to a T. But this comes to knowing your T. You know what I'm saying? If your T is your T is not someone else's T. You know what I'm saying? And I'm not talking about the drink. I'm talking about like the letter T. You know what I'm saying? How people use that analogy. I'm making sure I cross every T and dot every I. You know, hey, you have to know your T. What is your T? Where do you cross the line at? What are your borders? Now, if they're your borders, right? Understanding this, if they're your borders, then it's okay that you for set them bounds for yourself. But all we saying is that 9 times out of 10, just because they're your borders doesn't mean that that's what the understanding of what the Bible is saying. So just because you may feel a certain type of way about something doesn't mean that that's correct biblically. So I'm gonna go teach everybody else that this is the
Right,
correct understanding.
right.
It's going back to knowing your T. So when you know your T and you stay in your space of what your T is, hey, look, you won't be vexed by what you think people are doing or what you think people are not doing. Why? Because you have to go back to the law. right? This is the only example that we have found in the Torah Tanakh. You know what I'm saying? The Ruach Hakadash, the Ruach Hakodesh, however people say it. Brother gonna
Like the
calm me
brother
up.
said, deceptive fear is also important to pay attention to, because if the fear that's being taught is not of the God, then like the brother said, you're gonna be vexed just because you think that brothers are doing something, or you think that a sister is doing something. You're gonna be vexed, right? And that's bearing false witness. But to wrap what we're saying up into words, can we go to 1 Corinthians 13 and 9?
Khan, I had Psalms 19:7 too, right? You want to bring that out? Or you just want to go straight to 1 Corinthians?
Um, go to 1 Corinthians 13 and 9, and then we're gonna end it with the last one.
Verses the book of 1 Corinthians chapter 3 and verse 19.
Come.
And it says, "For the wisdom of this world is foolishness with God. For it is written, He taketh the wise in their own craftiness."
Con, so the fool is, well, I didn't really like that one right now, but Con, you know
You
what I'm
said
saying?
13 and 9, right?
Yeah,
Nah,
I was saying 13 and 9. I was gonna go to the one that Yeshai just read after that, but Con,
oh,
you know,
Salakia. I was reading the thing when he said 13 and 9. I was thinking 3 and 19. Salakia.
Con. But no, we're gonna get to that one too, right? That's how we're gonna wrap it up. But right, read this one real quick. 13 and 9.
For we know in part and we prophesy in part.
Right. So right now we're teaching with the wisdom and knowledge that we have, and we know in part. We don't know. Nobody has 100% truth, and if you do, you're going against this verse right here. It says we know in part. Read verse 10.
Verse number 10. But when that which is perfect is come,
What is perfect? That's coming.
Christ.
Christ. When he comes, what's going to happen?
Perfection. We're gonna be
No. I was saying to keep reading.
Then that which is in part shall be done away.
Right. When he comes, that was in part is gonna be done away. Then we're gonna have 100% truth. Then we're gonna actually know how to keep the Sabbath to a T. Then we're gonna actually know how to keep the holy days to a T. Then we're gonna actually know what's right to a T. Right. But we're not supposed to add a different fear, a precept of men. Right. Just, hey, we know in part. Right. But so now we can go to 3 and 9, or 3 and what?
3 and 19.
3 and 19. And it says again, "For the wisdom of this world is foolishness with God. For it is written, He taketh the wise in their own craftiness."
Right. So guess what? There's craftiness outside of the truth and inside the truth. And it's all foolishness. And God's going to show them that it's foolishness, right? There's no there's nothing done in the dark that does not be brought to the light. You know what I'm saying? And if you are not teaching the precepts of the Most High God, and you're teaching precepts of men, guess what? Your foolishness is going to be called out. Your foolishness, your craftiness to get that respect from a congregation. Your craftiness to get that power. Your craftiness to get that fear from people. The craftiness to change the truth of God into a lie. Right? Whether that be a government, whether that be a church, whether that be a camp, whether that be, you know what I'm saying, a secret society. Whatever you're doing, guess what? It's going to be brought to naught, right? He taketh the wise in their own craftiness. And in that day, guess what? He's going to show you, right, why you were wrong and how you were wrong. When he says, "Hey, depart from me, I never knew you," right? You wanted to do your own thing and not mine. You know what I'm saying? But with that, brothers, got any closing precepts?
Khan, I want to say, of the women came the beginning of sin. That's all right. 25 and 24, I want to say. But now, to close, man, I had a little drum moment, man. Skadoosh, but brothers weren't feeling it. So, to close, man, I want to say definitely, through the Spirit, Most High willing, as always, man. I do hope y'all are edified in spirit and in truth. If anybody wants to talk, If anybody wants to, message us, have conversations about certain things, certain topics, hey, look, the way we believe, always can hit us up, man. We have our information scrolling across the bottom. It's also going to be in the description once the video is officially posted on the YouTube. So if you don't get our information scrolling, panning across the bottom of the screen right now, go look in the description, hit us up, man. Follow us, email us, DM us, connect with us, because like the brother said, we always ready to give answer, about anything. And all we want to do is tell people the brother was on the spirit to, let people know, look, we have to have a fear of the Most High, not a fear of what man says the Most High said, right? Go to the Most High himself to see what he says and see how to fear him. Don't let somebody just tell you this is what the Most High said to fear him, so you start fearing him because somebody told you, right? That's Acts chapter 5 and verse 29. Peter and the apostles answered and said, we ought to obey God rather than men.
Hey, look, you said that, you know what I'm saying? You said that, hey, that was well spoken, you know what I'm saying? You hit all the key points that we talked about tonight, you know what I'm saying? And that's how camps and congregations are formed, because brothers have similar ideologies or sisters have similar ideologies, and it's good to be like-minded with people, but let's not let that go to our heads as far as deeming what's righteous and what's not righteous, right? A brother might tell you, if you listen to this camp, and this camp, oh, you eating from too many tables, or you're tossed like the waves of the sea here and there. You know what
You're
I'm
being
saying?
tossed to and fro, brother.
You're being tossed to and fro, brother. You know what I'm saying? You're not stable. You're unstable like water, right? Hey, look, you know what is keeping you in this truth, and your sincerity and your genuine heart. You do that. Don't let brothers put fear in you. Well, I'm gonna just have to cut everybody off and just deal with only people in my congregation, my camp, and not listen to nobody else because Elder so and so said this, right? That's putting a fear on you that the Most High God didn't put on you, right? But that's deceptive fear, and that's what we was talking about. You had anything to know?
Uh, uh, just that you want to take what we're saying, man, and really go back to the drawing board, right? And and pay attention to your inner man, right? I believe it's in the book of Sirach where it says a man's discernment will tell him more than than 7 men in a watchtower. You know what I'm saying? So if you're practicing these law, statutes, and commandments with sincerity, right, and you're diligently rehearsing the righteous acts, go with what sups with your spirit, and with that being said, you got to trust the knowledge that you have in the scriptures, right? And not trust what men tell you, right? Don't even trust what we tell you. You know what I'm saying? If what we said didn't sup with your spirit, right? Always go with where your spirit is leading you, right? Because one thing you don't want to do is be at fault for doing something that you wasn't fully 100% sold on. You know what I'm saying? And so you don't want to make something a sin in your mind that's not there, right? And so that's what we're trying to harp on, is that, hey, look, we're in a sense, you get in the truth, and brothers harp on the fact of, it's a touchy subject when you're harping on the fact of we don't want to put burdens on the people, right? Because you don't want to make it seem like there's like complete liberation in this thing, because it's not. There's a balance, but you got to know what's the doctrine of man, and you got to know what is law, right? What's a law, statute, and commandments, right, man. So you got to do your due diligence and study to show thyself approved, and that's what it all boils down to, and that's where I'll leave it at.
Right, Khan. So, like the brother said, man, like Foster and Denal Salakia.
Hey, somebody get this brother a Red Bull or something. Hey,
like Denal and Yeshaya said, man, don't listen to what other brothers and sisters tell you the Most High said. Go and see what the Most High said. That way, on the day of the Lord, you're not saying, Lord, I did X, Y, and Z in your name, and he said, I never asked you to do that. Depart from me. You don't want to hear that, right? Because of the fear and the precepts of men got you all confident before the Most High God, right?
wait, and Salakia, I'm going to add B real quick. I know we said we wrapping up, but Don't be confused with us saying, don't listen to men tell you what the Most High said, to say that we're in hypocrisy, sitting up here making videos, going out on the street, teaching our people, right? The purpose of us having the screen pulled up is to show you the scriptures where we're pulling from. And the reason even when we go out on the street and teach, we have people call the book, chapter, verse to show them, hey, we're saying this, right? Because we're speaking as the oracles, right? So it's important to know that. Don't get that confused with, because I say that the Most High said eating pork is an abomination, that now you're saying, well, you saying the Most High said that, but you told us not to believe what men said the Most High said. You told us to believe exactly what the Most High said, right? No, we pull these scriptures to show you where it's coming from. If I'm telling you something and I'm not showing you anything to back it up, that's when you have to say, I wonder what this uppity Negro is speaking. You know what I'm saying?
Con.
But Khan,
We're strictly talking about like things like the examples, many examples we brought out today, right? We're not telling brothers and sisters not to teach no more. We're just saying, hey, look, man, don't add your own fear in there. But with
right.
that, we're gonna say Shabbat Shalom. We give all honor and glory to the Most High God by the way of His Son, who's an instrument of salvation for the nation of Israel, and also Shalom to everybody that entered the live feed that's going to watch this later on, and that is being diligent in the work of the Lord and are adding to the labor of the harvest. We say Shalom.
Shalom,
Shalom.
Shabbat,
Be
shalom.
blessed, Israel. They didn't